another episode after the long and boring international break. We had a full weekend of Premier League fixtures the week just gone, and some interesting results, especially on FPL. So we're going to do what we normally do. We're going to go through the top five teams in the Football Feast Extra podcast Fantasy League, and we're going to look at the teams. We're going to look at the players that scored the most points this week, the players that scored the most points since the season began, just to see, if it's changed a little bit in terms of who's at the top. We're also going to go through my team because I did use my wildcard last week coming into this round of fixtures. I don't regret it, but I also didn't score particularly highly. I've scored higher than I would have done if I didn't use the wildcard. So it was a good decision. But it's just been a poor week for anybody using a template. Let's put it that way. So without further ado, let's get into the league table. So here we go. Let's go through the top five teams as we normally do. At the top, we've got Boys in Hood. Courtney Robinson is in first place, 61 points, which is a good total for this week. 352 points in total. Actually starting to pull clear a little bit now of the rest. 30 points or 32 points clear. Second place, it's me, Mario, sticking in the top five. 49 points gained on the week, 320 points overall. In second place, Club Tropicana, Romy Baker, 309 points. We've seen Sean Barron come into the top five for the first time this season, one of our podcast hosts. Congratulations to Barron. We will go through his team. And who makes up the top five is Blake Cowley with his change name team. 305 points. So very close between third, fourth, and fifth. But the top two are starting to pull away. So without further ado, let's look at Boys in Hood, the team that's top of the league this week with a good points total. Let's have a look to see what themes we can spot. Edison in goal. It's still going with Edison. Quite surprisingly, I think I said last week or last time we reviewed this team that Edison may be one to look at and get in terms of getting rid of, because Manchester City just don't keep that many clean sheets. But still kept with Edison. Gusto in defence. Chelsea were poor, but because they kept a clean sheet, any Chelsea defender you had this week is a good signing. Anderson with 2 points. I think that's just a filler. There was no way he was gonna really do anything spectacular. Saliba on 6 points. Arsenal had a good game, a good 1-0 win away at Everton. Any Arsenal defender again would have got you a decent amount of points. Zinchenko actually got a bonus point, so Zinchenko probably the best defender to have. Mo Salah, 10 points, actually had an assist taken off him. That third goal given as an own goal. So Salah was stripped of the assist and stripped of the points. So not a bad week for Mo Salah owners. Bruno Fernandes, Manchester United. I mean, what can we say? If you listen to the full podcast, we talk about the Manchester United Brighton result in depth. But a terrible performance from Manchester United. Bruno Fernandes, 1 point for him. Bukayo Saka got the assist for Leandro Trossard's goal. 6 points for him despite having a fairly quiet game. So not a bad turnout for Saka owners. We've got Diaby, who got an assist in that 3-1 win against Crystal Palace. It looked like it was going to be a poor result for Villa until a late flurry of goals pulled it out the back. Mbeumo, 2 points only this week. Not a particularly great game for Brentford, losing 1-0 to Newcastle. A tough assignment. Mbeumo, 2 points only. And the two players that are making the top teams, Julian Alvarez and Erling Haaland, both up front. 9 points for Alvarez, 12 points for captain Haaland. And a really good decision here. Estepinian drops to the bench. Actually, I think that this is likely. Estepinian was probably in the team and was traded out for Anderson after the games because Estepinian did not play. Matt Turner was the goalkeeper, so 2 points for each goalkeeper. Not really a better choice. And then Baldock and Makati didn't play, injured as well, not available. So congratulations to Courtney, who is clear at the top. Let's look at second place then. It's me, Mario, with 49 points. Okay, Matt Turner in goal, 2 points. We've spoke about Matt Turner already. The 1-1 draw against Burnley on Monday night, 2 points for him. Udogie 2 points, obviously conceding against Sheffield United. Not really a good week for Tottenham assets, unless you had the 2 scorers. Ben Chilwell, 0 points for Ben Chilwell. Did not play. I think he may have come on and then got booked. Played 10 minutes. So not a good week for Ben Chilwell owners. Saliba and Gusto, a solid 12 points there in the back four. I would actually say that's probably the difference this week because not many high-scoring defenders have come out of this game week. Phil Foden on 2 points, didn't get involved in any of Manchester City's goals, but played over 60 minutes. So 2 points for Phil Foden. Bukayo Saka and Bruno Fernandes, we've spoken about already. 6 points for Bukayo Saka, 1 point for Fernandes. Raheem Sterling is a different name that we haven't seen yet. Obviously Chelsea were terrible. The defence were the only high scorers for them. No goals for Chelsea, so 2 points for Raheem Sterling. Mo Salah, we spoke about his assists, 10 points, one of the highest scorers this week. And Erling Haaland, as we would expect, as the captain, with 12 points. On the bench, Flecken, Estepinion, Semenyo, and Mbama. Only 1 point on the bench in this team. Let's move on to third place then. Club Tropicana. 46 points. Another team with Ederson in goal. Quite interestingly, a lot of people seem to be sticking with Ederson. He's quite expensive for a goalkeeper and for what he offers, and he's not really pulling out the points at the moment. Could be one to look at if you're looking at maybe a wild card or you're just looking to change your transfer. Rico Henry, 1 point. Looks like he may be injured now, but went off in the 41st minute against Newcastle. Andy Robertson, the first Andy Robertson owner, 11 points. He is one of the top scorers this week in terms of points, scoring a goal in the 3-1 win at Wolves. Ben Chilwell, though, of course, brings the score right back down. 0 points for Ben Chilwell, as we've already discussed. 6 points for Bukayo Saka. 1 point for Gabriel Martinelli, who went off injured after scoring the goal that was then disallowed. A really turbulent few minutes for Martinelli owners. Thought they were getting a good few points to have them all taken away, and then the player had to go off. So some ups and downs with Gabriel Martinelli this week. Eze on 1 point. He played the full 90, but was booked. So only 1 point for him. We've discussed Mbeumo. Looking at the three strikers, Gabriel Jesus was an interesting choice. He didn't start in the win against Everton, did come on off the bench. Nketiah still seems to be starting ahead of him. But then that two of Julian Alvarez and Erling Haaland, 9 and 12 points, as we've already discussed. Areola, 4 points on the bench, would have been a better selection this week, but the two teams were playing each other. No one would have really predicted West Ham. Areola getting more points than Ederson, really, if the two teams faced off. So understandable to have Areola on the bench. Solly March did not play. Did not play at all in the game against Manchester United. Same with Estepinion, and 1 point for Emerson. And let's go from Mr. Sean Barron's team. The first time we're looking at Sean as a top 5 team. Another person with Ederson in goal. Maybe I'm wrong here, but a lot of people seem to have gone with Ederson. I suppose when you're looking at Manchester City picks, he's pretty much guaranteed to play. So that is something that can be considered. Let's look at the back four then. Another person with William Saliba, 6 points. He's always going to start unless he's injured. It seems to be Gabriel that drops out of the team if Arteta wants to change things, although you can never be sure with Mikel Arteta. Pau Torres in defence. With Gusto and Pinnock. Gusto on 6 points, Pau Torres and Pinnock with 2 each. So a fairly okay performance at the back. This is where it gets interesting. The midfield, Hudson-Odoi, 10 points after scoring for Nottingham Forest. What a pick that is. Not seen anyone else with Hudson-Odoi. Let's have a look at him. 4.9 million. Yeah, phenomenal. Phenomenal pick there. Not owned by many people. In his first full match for Nottingham Forest. 3 bonus points as well. That has really elevated Barron this week, so well done for that pick. Mo Salah, we've spoken about, 10 points. Rashford, the first time we've seen Marcus Rashford this week, a lot of people have taken him out. Only 2 points for Rashford. I think more people are looking at taking him out now. Man United just don't look at it. Bukayo Saka, 6 points we've spoken about. We've got Erling Haaland on 12, and the first inclusion of Darwin Núñez on 1 point. After he came on in the second half, but didn't really get involved in any of Liverpool's goals. We can then take a look at the bench. We've got Matt Turner, popular choice. Alexander Isak didn't play, was rotated for Callum Wilson. Isak, of course, started the Champions League game against AC Milan. We've also got Anderson, 3 points, and Tarek Lamptey, 7 points on the bench for Barron. So it could have been an even better week for him. And finally, we're going to go into 5th place. Blake Cowley with his unnamed team. Bernd Leno in goal. Really good choice. 6 points. Playing against Luton. Really, really solid pick for the goalkeeper. Kieran Trippier, 8 points. Did really well against Brentford. Got the clean sheet as well as 2 bonus points. So that was the first time we've seen Trippier in a top 5 team this week. We've then got Bell, Udogie and Kabore in defence. 2 points apiece for those 3. Then looking into midfield, we've gone through Bukayo Saka and Bruno Fernandes. Martin Odegaard with 3 points. He got a clean sheet and played 90 minutes, so didn't get any credit for any assists or goals or goal contributions. And also the first time we've seen James Maddison, who was probably put in because of the favourable fixture against Sheffield United, and he just wasn't able to contribute to a goal and assist, and also got booked. 1 point for James Maddison. Not a good week for Maddison owners. And then up front, of course, Erling Haaland and Julian Alvarez, 12 and 9 points, as we've already discussed. A bench of Areola, Estepinion, Baptiste, and Isaac. 4 points on the bench in total. That makes up the top 5. Okay, so after we've looked at the top 5, we're now going to look at what players actually made the top 5. Which players were selected in most of these teams that made them impressive, that elevated them up the table. So this is the highest scoring players this week. We will also look at the high scoring players, as we normally do, since the season started, after we've looked at this. So if you're thinking about transfers next week, here are some names you could be looking at. Bernardo Silva, the highest scoring player of this game week, 13 points. He's just such a rotation risk. He's I don't think he started this game for City either. I could be wrong. But yeah, 3 bonus points. Did really well, 13. He was the best player of the game week. We've then got Leandro Trossard, again, another rotation risk. Actually came off the bench for the injured Martinelli, 11 points, scoring the only goal of the game. So could again be a risky one if you're looking to put them in, especially with Champions League coming up for both City and Arsenal. Andy Robertson, 11 points, level with Trossard, the one player who you can guarantee is pretty much going to start. I still probably wouldn't go for him at this point, but even though he scored and that's what's elevated his points, Liverpool look shaky at the back and I can't see them keeping many clean sheets. They've also got a game against Tottenham coming up. I think if you've got Robertson, of course, stick, but I wouldn't look to bring him in at this time. Douglas Luiz for Aston Villa on 10 points. Neto, fantastic performance from Neto against Chelsea, made some key saves, 10 points as well, well-earned clean sheet. Pascal Gross with a goal against Manchester United, 10 points for him. And David Sanchez, 10 points, the highest scoring goalkeeper, other than Neto, where they joint on 10. After that clean sheet, but obviously both of them played against each other, 10 points each. We've then got Mo Salah, Hudson-Odoi, Hammer, and Kulusevski on 10 points. Kulusevski, of course, scoring in that 2-1 win. We'll go down a little bit more and we'll look at Jeremy Doku, 9 points for him, along with Julian Alvarez, the 2 scorers for Manchester City. Sven Botman on 9 points. David Raya on 8 points. So they are the top scorers this week if you're looking at transferring some players in. But let's look at the top scorers since game week 1, because that's how you need to be judging players, not how they played against the last team they played against. It's how they've played all season. Are they hitting form? Are they dipping? Let's look at the total points. Unexpectedly, Erling Haaland, 45 points, starting to pull clear at the top of that leaderboard. I suggest if you've not got Haaland, we'll talk about him in depth in a little bit. If you've not got Haaland in your team, you might start to fall behind here because he seems to be pulling away. Julian Alvarez on 37. So the two Manchester City men lead the way in terms of points at the top of the league. And Buemo's still going strong despite having a disappointing week with only 2 points, 35 in total, 2 points behind Alvarez. Mo Salah, despite not having a good scoring run, not scored in 6 away games now for Liverpool, 33 points for him. Eduardo has sort of got under the radar. No one's really got him, but he does seem to be scoring the goals for Crystal Palace, 32 points, along with Gerald Bowen for West Ham, 32 points. West Ham, difficult fixture run. I would probably hold off putting him in for a little while longer. We then get to Bukayo Saka on 31 points. Not really hit his best form. He is being sort of marshaled very well in games, 2-3 players on him, but he still managed to crack up 31 points. Awoniyi has 30, along with James Maddison. Heung-min Son also on 30. Diaby for Aston Villa, 29 points, along with Solly March, who, if you remember, after the first 3 weeks, was top of this leaderboard. Obviously, didn't play at all in the last game. We'll then go down a little bit further. Romero for Tottenham, James Ward-Prowse for West Ham, and another player that was flying high at the start of the season, Rodri from Manchester City, 28 points. Was obviously not going to keep up that goal scoring form. That's not his job. He's not particularly high scorer in FPL. He's going to start to drop off. If you fell into that trap of picking him up, I would maybe look to get rid. So finally, what we're going to look at before we talk about Erling Haaland is the fixture list. So as we always do, we'll go through this week's fixtures and we'll go through next week's fixtures and we'll look at maybe players that have got easy run of games that you could look to put in your team. So, no 12:30 game on Saturday. Don't get caught out by that. Crystal Palace versus Fulham. Again, if you're looking at maybe Edouard, it's not a bad game for Palace. Fulham at home. Fulham haven't looked great this season. That might be something to look at. Luton versus Wolves. I probably would stay away from. I wouldn't say it's worth putting in any Wolves players. If you've got Sarr or maybe a defender for Wolves, definitely think about putting them in. But I wouldn't transfer anyone in with this game in mind because Wolves, they don't look like they're going to be great this season. Manchester City versus Nottingham Forest. This is one probably to put in Alvarez if you've got him. But with the Champions League coming up, is Alvarez going to start as many games? Is there going to be some rotation? We haven't really seen so much tinkering from Pep this season, not as much as normal. But now the Champions League is starting, we might start to see that. Brentford are at home to Everton. It might be a good game for Mbeumo owners. If you stick with him, it's not a bad fixture to have Everton at home, unless they sit behind the ball like they did on Sunday. It might be a little bit of a slog. Burnley at home to Man United. You know what? I don't even know what to suggest anymore with Man United. I would normally say, yeah, put your Rashfords and your Bruno Fernandez's in. But Man United, you just don't know what you're going to get from them, really, on a weekly basis. I would say this is probably not the week to sell assets from Man United if you have them, because Burnley are leaking goals. But I probably wouldn't also look to bring them in. So it just depends on your position, really. Let's head on to Super Sunday, 24th of September. Arsenal versus Spurs is one of 4 2 p.m. kickoffs on Sky Sports. The only one on Sky Sports at 2 p.m., may I add. Yeah, I mean, this just is dependent on who you want to go for. This is one of those games that there's always goals, there's always penalties in this game. I would probably pack your team with midfielders and attackers from probably both Arsenal and Tottenham. This isn't a game for Arsenal and Spurs defenders or goalkeepers. I think both teams will be conceding on this one. Brighton versus Bournemouth. You know what? It's very difficult to call this one because Brighton have been so impressive, but Bournemouth have proved to be no pushovers. I would still probably favour a few Brighton assets. If you've got Mitoma, if you've got maybe Ferguson will be back, keep an eye on his fitness as the week goes on. This could be a good game for them. Chelsea versus Villa. Chelsea are another team that look absolutely terrible. I think I would get rid of Jackson now if you've got him. I was patient with him up until the wild card, and then I got rid of him. I got rid of all my Chelsea assets. Villa look like the better team at the moment, even though they've been shaking themselves. I probably wouldn't look to load my team with Chelsea players for this fixture. If you have some and you can't get rid of them, then put them in. But if not, then don't bring any more in. It's my advice. Liverpool versus West Ham. I think that Liverpool will blow them away. And they were poor against Wolves, Liverpool, and West Ham have been really, really good. But I think when that front three is playing, the correct front three, as in Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez, and Mohamed Salah, when that front three are playing, they look like a different team. McAllister needs to be left out. I think he's or playing in a different role. But I do think that second half against Wolves, with those three on the pitch, Liverpool look like a real threat. And I think Klopp will learn from that. So I'm expecting those three to start up front, and I'm expecting a big win for Liverpool. So maybe bring in some Liverpool assets. Sheffield United are at home to Newcastle. This is one that you would expect Newcastle to win, although are they going to have a hangover from the Champions League? The first time they've been in the Champions League for 20 years. I would feel pretty confident loading my team with Newcastle defenders at the very least, because Sheffield United probably won't be able to break them down. Newcastle are very good defensively, and Sheffield United don't offer much up front if Newcastle can keep Archer quiet. So that's this week. We will look quickly and briefly at next week. We'll go into that more detail when we get to it, but we'll quickly run through the fixtures. Aston Villa, Brighton, Bournemouth and Arsenal, Everton and Luton, Man United and Crystal Palace, Newcastle, Burnley, West Ham, Sheffield United, Wolves, Manchester City, Spurs, Liverpool, Nottingham Forest, Brentford, Fulham, Chelsea, and then Luton, Burnley. So it's actually a double game week here. Luton and Burnley. I'm not quite sure how that's gonna. It must be one game week. It's listed in the same week of fixtures, so a double game week. This is the game that I think was delayed at the start of the season for Luton not having their stadium ready. Unfortunately, I don't think anybody is going to have any Luton or Burnley players. But if you're looking at Burnley, maybe it's a good time to sneak someone in, because not many people will. A few things to note about this game week. What's coming up? It's another fairly straightforward fixture for Newcastle, having Sheffield United and Burnley back to back. Maybe a week to look at keeping hold of some Newcastle players. I mentioned Wolves playing Luton, and don't build your team around Wolves players. Not that anyone probably will, but look who they've got the week after: Manchester City at home. Definitely steer clear. Don't fall into that trap of investing in loads of Wolves players. Spurs versus Liverpool. After going to the Emirates, they host Liverpool. Maybe this is the time to look at selling players like Udogie if you've got them, or maybe just benching them for a few games. If you've got the squad depth to be able to do that and still field players that are going to play, absolutely do that. So that is all we are going to look at today. There is one last thing that I want to go over before we go, and that is the Erling Haaland situation. Now, I've been looking at the top performing teams in FPL, and the teams that have actually performed the best are ones that are not using Erling Haaland at all. They've reinvested that 14.5 million, and they've built their squad stronger around it. Now, I think more and more people are doing this, but Erling Haaland is starting to perform. So it's completely up to you if you think that is something that's going to pay off. But I think that with Julian Alvarez playing so well, I think that it doesn't look like he's being rotated as much. This is probably the best time to take Haaland out over the last 2 seasons. There's probably not been a better time, but it's very, very risky. But it's definitely something to start thinking about, especially with Champions League coming up. You never know with Pep. He might start rotating. You'd think he'd keep Haaland in, but it's definitely something to consider over the next week. And that's it from me today with the FPL show. I hope that you've got something from this. Let me know if you're going to use your wild card. Let me know what your teams are. Screenshot them. Put them in the comments. There'll be clips floating about of this on TikTok, on YouTube, on Twitch. Get involved with the conversation. And I'll be back next week with a review of the previous week's games and fixtures. And we will look ahead to the week after. Thank you for joining me. See you next week.
Yeah. football beast, this the football beast extra podcast, ay, football beast, football beast extra podcast, playing soccer, grab your keys, playing soccer, time to meet, playing soccer, time to greet, they finna talk a lot, okay, playing soccer, get the cleats, playing soccer, let's get it, playing soccer, let's go, football podcast.